You're listening to Great Scott, the Office podcast. I am Jay-Rey, and with me is my very fancy, high-tech deskmate, Jacob.
Yes, I have the background, and I have like photos up now. So if you check out the YouTube, which I hope to post this week, because I think I actually forgot to do it last time.
That's fair.
Force Awakens, yeah, it's a solid background. At least it's not like Last Jedi. Well,
I like Last Jedi.
you're wrong.
Well, I'm not, though. You're wrong.
Have you seen Solo yet?
Yeah, terrible.
Really?
See? That's why you're wrong. You don't get it. You don't understand it.
I mean, it wasn't a great movie, but I thought it was fun. It was completely unnecessary and superfluous.
Yeah.
But, But at least you liked Rogue One, right? I mean,
yeah, I named my dog after Jin.
Nice. Yeah, I love that movie. That's of any of the new ones, like since The Phantom Menace, I think it's the best one.
Since the Phantom, right? Yeah. So since the prequels.
Well, so in the new bunch.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it holds up there with up there with Jedi at certain, or not Jedi, Empire times, but it's not as good as Empire. But yeah,
that's why I didn't like Solo. I just wish we explored more of the universe,
right? Mm-hmm.
Instead of exploring we already know what happened in Han's past, right?
To an extent, I mean,
and they're just adding stuff, but we already know where he ends up,
right?
As opposed to the Obi-Wan story sounds interesting to me. Because we don't really know much about Obi-Wan after, right? Like A New Hope, he's there.
Right.
We know everything about him from the prequels, but whatever he was doing in Tatooine.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Doing crack. And hanging out with sand people.
There's also been a lot of rumors of a rogue Squadron movie, like them before Luke shows up. So
yeah.
And I think a space, basically Top Gun, but Star Wars.
Space, yeah. With Wedge and stuff, right?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Porkins finally getting his day in the sun.
That's right, man. Yeah. Oh, good old Porky. But we're not here talking about Star Wars. That is on our other one-day podcast, the Star Wars something.
Yeah.
The Star Wars sit down.
There it is. Boom.
We are here to talk about The Office. We are in season 7, as you can see over my right shoulder here.
There it is.
We are on the first post-Michael episode.
Yep.
The Inner Circle, season 7, episode 22, directed by Matt Sohn? I don't know.
Yeah.
And written by Charlie Grandy.
So, the last time we saw our Office friends, D'Angelo was eating handfuls of cake and then throwing them in Angela's direction.
No.
Yeah, so we know. So it's different, right? We are now in the age of D'Angelo.
Right. A very short-lived age.
Yeah.
He seems like he's around longer than 3 episodes. I think that's all his run is 3 episodes.
Yeah, in my head, I thought he had 2 post-Michael episodes, but obviously
at least. I thought he had at least 2, if not 3 or 4.
Yeah. So it's nuts, but here he is, and I guess all right, great way to start the show. Star Wars and then a complaint. The problem with D'Angelo is it's the point he makes in this episode is he doesn't want the Office to get him, right?
Right.
But in the few episodes that he's in, I don't get him. Truly, I don't even understand.
Right.
Is he great? Is he stupid? Is he aggressive? Is he not?
Well, I think that's what it is. That's his quote-unquote style.
Yeah.
The only thing we really know about him is he loves the American Southwest.
Right.
The thing is, he wants what he wants when he wants it, and he says he doesn't want mind readers, but he does. Yeah. It's very obvious in this episode. He wants a bunch of yes men.
Correct. Yep.
So, and I don't know if this is enabling from Joe or what. I don't know. Maybe he's done really well in the past.
Yeah, that's the thing too, right? Because when he tells that story about him saving Joe's dog, he's kind of on the down and out.
Right.
But, did he fall from grace from another position that was actually good?
Right. Did he hit, there's this business principle. It's been thrown around, but it's the Peter principle.
Yeah.
Eventually, you'll be promoted past your level of excellence.
Yeah, I mean, Michael is always the prime example of it.
Right.
So, yeah, is D'Angelo just like the bad version of it now?
Well, was he really good somewhere else and got into management and people realized how bad he was?
Mm.
I mean, as we see later in the episode, he's a very sexist person. So did he get fired for being really sexist to somebody?
Right.
You know, I mean, that's a very real possibility I didn't think of till just now. So
yeah. Well, so the episode starts with like he has this meeting. It's all in a meeting, right? Where all this
it's like a conference room meeting.
Yeah. Where like he is very angry and very aggressive and very deal with the information I'm telling you, but a lot of it is good news.
Well, he's like, coasting time is over.
Yeah, right.
You know, I don't want this, and you know, if you don't like the changes, you can walk out the door right there.
Yep. But we find out Daryl's getting a full ride to business school.
Mm-hmm.
Later in the episode, we also find out he's learning Chinese at business school.
Or maybe going to be learning Chinese.
Yeah.
So does this like go away when D'Angelo goes away? Like,
yeah, it's hard to say
because we never really revisit it. And by the time Athlete had rolled around, depending on the schedule for an NBA, he would have been done.
Right. Yeah. I feel like it must be because he I mean, he doesn't seem to be like walking on the clouds after D'Angelo leaves, Yeah,
because like I did mine in like 13 months. It was 13 excruciating months, but it was still 13 months.
Right, yeah. Tobes is getting a new chair.
Right, which I assume he got.
Right, yeah.
Which, Tobes has got to be like, over the moon for getting a new chair.
Yeah. It's like Oliver Twist.
Well, if someone not just
yeah. Ice Cream Thursday is coming back.
I thought that was a new thing.
Or that too. Someone wanted to bring something back. Oh no, Angela wanted to bring back
Pet Day with no dogs.
That's right.
No dogs.
Yeah, so I mean, it's just all this good news, but he's just trying to like make it unclear for the office to like get him. And like you said, he doesn't want yes men, but he's assembled what the office has dubbed the inner circle.
Right. Like Kevin ends up being his target audience.
Yeah.
Because he's like, I don't know what to think. He's like, you get me.
Yep.
So
yeah, it's so good. So essentially, the inner circle consists of Jim, Daryl, Gabe, Kevin. I thought that was one more person in there. Ryan?
No, he's not in there.
No. Yeah, I guess that's it. And I mean, I don't know what the inner circle does. It seems to be just kind of like an inter-office powwow where I guess they talk about some office stuff, but generally seem to like slack off.
Right. It seems to be what it is. And so what I assume is that D'Angelo brings in some people who are going to insulate him. Right. It ends up like they just start hanging out.
Yeah.
And so that I think that's what he does. He's like the top go-getters in the office. He makes his friend, and then he can do whatever he wants.
Person he wants in the inner circle is Dwight.
Right.
And Dwight's having none of it.
Right, which is awesome. I think it's really good. Especially, this is actually a really interesting thing. So later in this episode, we see D'Angelo get really pissy with Dwight, and Dwight like picks up. He's like, I don't know if you know this about me, but I respond well to shows of authority.
Yeah.
So I kind of wonder if Michael did something early on with Dwight to sort of get him under his wing, get him under his control, so to speak.
Right.
And then go from there because, I get that Dwight's pissed because he's not the manager, but, it would seem like he would want to do things because, when Charles Minor was there, he was very much there. Like, the moment Charles was like, look, hey, we should go have a beer and talk about this. He's like, what? And just completely falls for Charles, which, Grant Charles was a very domineering, powerful person. So that kind of makes sense. But like the fact it took that act of dominance for Dwight to respond was interesting.
Yeah. I mean, also too, Charles initially showed a dislike for Jim, I think, which helped Dwight also be like, oh yeah, this guy's on the up and up.
Mm-hmm.
But D'Angelo brings him a coffee, and like Pam in the tiramisu, he just takes the whole thing and dumps it in the trash.
I feel bad for the custodians. Like,
I know, whole things of food, right?
Hopefully that bag doesn't have a hole in it, but if it does, get down all into the can and stuff.
Yeah, that's yucky.
We have signs posted around our office. Please don't put drinks in the trash.
Right.
Pull drinks in the trash. I'm like, I get it.
Another thing we found in this episode is Ryan is pulling a little bit of a Pam here by creating a position for himself.
Right. And this is also where, like, it is very apparent of D'Angelo's sexism, later in this. But yeah, he's like, Ryan has this great thing. He's like, the problem with having it or the X factor is it's impossible to tell people what you bring to the table.
Right. Yeah.
And so he's managed to convince Kelly to let him act as if he's her boss.
Yeah. I mean, there does seem to be a trade-off because later on he says he's forced to be a dutiful boyfriend all the time.
Well, that's later. Like, he does something else.
Well, because eventually Kelly blows up Ryan's spot saying, no, this is not true. Ryan's actually this. And D'Angelo's like, well, I kind of like it the other way. So that's just going to be what it is.
Right. But there was something in the middle. There's three incidences of this happening. And like, well,
they're talking for one bit, and then Ryan just yells at her.
Right.
And then D'Angelo overhears that and says, boy, I won't want him to be my boss.
Right. And that's when like Kelly just like seizes on the opportunity. Like for a brief moment, she has all the power.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
She's where she's always wanted to be.
Yeah.
There's this whole thing about like, you just like to lie, right?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's true. My wife says that about me. But I always instantly say I'm joking afterwards. I just say things assertively with confidence and immediately say, no, that's not true. Ryan like really rides it out. This promotion that Ryan gets is short-lived. Stops after D'Angelo leaves. Very similar to, and there's a couple other things that happen this season that are basically just the result of D'Angelo working there that we don't see next season.
Right.
Which we'll get to, that's tied to the sexism.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. So that's the X Factor. Dwight has a ton of family.
Yeah, 70 cousins. Like, do we think he actually has 70 cousins?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, because I don't recall, I'll be honest, I don't recall like the last 4 episodes of the show so well. So I don't really remember the farm backdoor pilot so much.
I mean, he does have a big family, but didn't think it was like 70.
Well, it's not. I don't think it's all like I don't know what the expression is.
Like second cousins,
right? I think there's a lot of seconds and thirds and cousins removed and stuff that he's counting because of his family.
Right, and that's something like I've never really understood because like my family, that's not a thing in my family.
Mine either. Right. I mean, we have family friends who are my uncles in that context.
Right, but like we just like we've never gone past like the whatever cousin, like if it's either first cousins or you're essentially not family.
Yeah, I mean, like because you have a cousin, right? Mm-hmm. And if your cousin has a kid, I believe that's a second cousin.
Is that how that works?
I think. And then I think there's something like if you have an aunt that has a kid. Is that right? I don't know. Families are stupid. Let me tell you. I have my mom and my brother, and now I'm married, and that's about as far as I need to get. My funeral is going to be great. It's going to be like the Big Lebowski. They're going to put my ashes in a coffee can. My wife is going to try to throw them over the Grand Canyon, but a gust of wind will blow them back into my brother's face. That's what's going to happen. If there are more people involved in my life, it'd just be complicated.
Like,
it's a great funeral idea. I know.
I'm not like, I don't have that much family, I guess. It's like, my family's not small, but it mainly is because I have 5 siblings, not because I have a large extended family.
Right. Yeah. Family. Anyway, so yeah.
We have this great section. So, well, first, Pam brings up, so D'Angelo, I have a hard time thinking of his name because he's such little of the season or series. Okay, so D'Angelo wants an administrative assistant for some reason.
Right.
Michael never had one, so this is another way that Dunder Mifflin screwed him, that he could have had an administrative assistant and the receptionist.
Right.
And so Pam has this whole thing of, hey, would you check out, my friend? She's like, gave all these qualifications, worked in his offices, kind of gives the impression she's a little older,
Right.
And so we see this scene where they're going through, the inner circle is going through the resumes.
Mm-hmm.
And we see all these just terrible typos and resumes, which I've looked through resumes for like engineering students, like interns. Awful. So many typos.
Yeah. I got to say, because I recently got a new job, and the application process is very difficult because like you don't get feedback. Like you didn't reach out to those people and say, hey, we're not going to go with you. Also, your resume is full of fucking typos, you idiot.
Well, the thing is, you got to be careful there. Because if you reach out to them, there's some HR rules, and it's different depending on the company.
Right, but so societally, right? Like no one ever says, listen, we didn't go with you, and just so you know, this on your resume wasn't great to us, or we wish you expanded more on this or whatever.
Right.
Like, because you never know. And that being said, even though whatever your company would be didn't accept me and they gave me that feedback, that wouldn't be the same if I tried to apply at another company, right?
Right.
So it's like applying for jobs is difficult, I guess is my point. It sucks.
Right. I actually read somewhere that the reason it's so hard to apply for jobs now is because the internet made it so easy that they needed a gatekeeper because they were getting so many resumes for every job that they just couldn't keep up.
That makes sense. Yeah.
They're getting like 5,000, resumes for an entry-level position.
Yeah, helps that our economy is in great state. That people aren't retaining jobs, or people are retaining jobs for too long. Mm-hmm. That's a big millennial issue, is that we aren't changing jobs enough. Because I think they say the biggest time you get a raise is when you leave your job for another job,
It's pretty true. My 2 biggest raises have been moving jobs.
Yeah, and I was at my last job for 6 years, so I could be making bank, yo. That's what I'm saying. I could be making Dwight hotel money.
That's okay. So this is why perfect unemployment is 5%. Because that means enough people are leaving jobs and there's enough movement in the economy that stays around 5%.
Right.
Above 5% is bad. Below 5% is bad. It's just
so they're going through these resumes looking for someone, and so one of the greatest scenes during this Will Ferrell run of episodes,
honestly, I think it's a top 10
of the whole series, right?
In the series,
very well could be. Yeah. I didn't want to say it and have you reject me. I was scared, but I'm glad.
Okay, well, it's easy top 25.
That's fair. That's a
but top 10. Top 10. That's pretty.
Yeah,
that's pretty rarefied air. So let's say top 25.
I'll take it.
And so Daryl finds someone put on their resume that they were an expert juggler or something.
Right. Yep.
And D'Angelo says something about how he has this juggling routine, inspirational juggling routine that he likes to do. So before we get into the absurdity of the actual thing he does. Do you think he actually had a routine, or is it just like him bullshitting with, all sorts of other stuff? Like, because we see him just basically bullshitting this entire time.
Yeah, I mean, my wife says that D'Angelo's juggling in this moment is better than Pam's mock juggling, though she admits that Pam is doing mock juggling, so may not be trying as hard as D'Angelo is trying.
But the thing is, like, I feel like D'Angelo has a habit of
stretching the truth, right?
Well, either stretching the truth or not being called out on by people.
Mm.
And so, but he gets, especially with people like Jim, who are going to call you out, and Dwight. And so I think it's Jim who calls him out. It's like, we should totally see that.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, go get my stuff. He goes down to his car. And this is why I think it's just complete crap, is because he comes back from his car and he's like, oh, I thought I had my juggling stuff in there and I don't.
Yeah, and someone says, do you think someone stole it? Which is like, what a dumb response. Like, who cares? But yeah, so he's already queued up the music though.
Right, so he might as well keep going.
And he goes on to do a juggling routine that I think there's not enough height in the office to correctly achieve.
I don't know how high you have to juggle 5 balls, but it's not a short distance.
Yeah. But of course, the greatest moment, quote, "Phyllis, do you trust me?" End quote. Where, I mean, in generally, I've never touched these juggling balls that are used, but my understanding is they're not too dissimilar from like leather wrapped hacky sacks, right?
Yeah, I mean, actually,
inside.
I'm actually been learning to try to juggle here the last year or so.
Okay.
And the ones I have are essentially hacky sacks. I have really bad vision, and juggling helps retrain my hand-eye coordination.
Okay, that's fair.
They're essentially hacky sacks.
So they're not bouncy, I guess, is my point, right?
Right. They're just a
throw
bit
them
more
at Phyllis's head, and they would just fall down into her lap.
Yes, they would, unless they're like special balls, because I can see someone do it with like racket balls or something.
Right? Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
but I love that because even at the point of this episode, "Wake Me Up" by Evanescence is an old song.
Yeah.
I remember when that song came on the scene, man. That thing was like the most lit jam ever.
Yeah, I mean, Evanescence, like her 2 songs, right? That song and then Going Under.
Right.
Like just all over the place. I mean, how many Dark Willow montages are on YouTube to Going Under, right? And there's only so much footage.
Because of this conversation, I'm going to put it in my Spotify so I can listen to it at work.
That's great. That'll get the blood pumping. So what's really great is he wraps it up and he ends the routine, and people might miss it because there are no balls, but he ends the routine with a ball landing on the back of his neck.
Right. And that's just like,
yeah. So some people clap, some people are confused, and we find Pam.
Yeah, most people are confused.
Yeah. Pam does her impression of it, which is funny. She goes so far as to doing no balls.
Right. I was like, I'm juggling, was it bowling balls and eggs? I think is what it was. Like, look, one hand, no hands.
And this is where it comes out that it's being suggested that D'Angelo's sexist.
Right, because, how does it come up? Something about the inner circle or something.
Well, yeah, so Jim says, lighten up, it wasn't that bad or something, and someone says, well, you're in the inner circle.
Right.
Of course, you'd say that.
Mm-hmm.
But it comes out that there are no women in the inner circle, and that there are just some general sexist vibes in the office that the inner circle doesn't seem to be addressing at all. So they propose Jim to be the representative. Now, an interesting ally...
Well, they don't propose. Jim tells him, say something. Or not Jim. Pam tells him to say something.
Right.
Because Jim does not want to at all.
Yeah, no. Jim's a terrible person. So an ally of this D'Angelo's sexist is Andy.
Right.
So those of you following at home, please write that down.
I would have noticed I took a ton of women's studies courses or something in college.
Yeah.
Which, if a guy says he's not a sexist because he did all of this, he's probably a bit sexist.
Yeah, I mean, not for nothing. He probably took those classes to try to get some,
Right.
So there is an inner circle meeting. Actually, there isn't. Jim tries to go in to speak.
Jim goes in, right.
Right, and everybody sees him go in, so everybody's in. And he brings it up. Now, he flat out says, it takes him a bit, but he does say that people in the office, who shall remain unnamed, think you're being sexist.
Mm-hmm.
Is that the way you would approach that conversation? Because I think that's wrong. I think he gets what he gets.
Right. Honestly, well, because Gabe's in the inner circle, can't go to Gabe, but really the best way to do it in a corporate setting is go to HR.
Right. Yeah.
So they should have gone to Toby, or like, especially, Kelly, Angela, Meredith, who we haven't really seen much of recently. So I don't know. Anyway, those women who felt wrong should not have pushed someone like Jim to do it.
Right.
They themselves should have gone to HR, but like, we've noticed this. We feel as though we're not being represented or whatever, something of that nature. Do something, and it would be then, because that's in a corporate setting. That is one of the main things HR is actually there for.
Yeah,
it's their job to be the representative of the people who are being wronged. So, it would be because, like we've talked about before, Gabe, like, we're not really sure what he does. Is he HR? Is he not? So so he would probably go and talk to, Tallahassee HR about it.
Mm-hmm. I mean, so Gabe's in this meeting though.
Right.
And
right.
he is being the yes man instead of the.
Oh, he's such a suck up. I mean, we've seen it before, but especially now that I feel like it's a Sabre person in charge, and not a Dunder Mifflin person. He's like, okay, I gotta toe the line. I can't really fight back here.
Yeah.
Because with Michael, he definitely pushed back a bit because it was, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You're just, a Dunder Mifflin person.
Right. And Michael was kind of against a lot of Gabe's initial changes.
Right.
Yeah. But Kevin, I mean, everybody says it must be Pam. Kevin agrees. You know how she gets.
You know how she gets.
Yeah.
Such a dick thing.
Yeah.
Kevin to say.
But then D'Angelo kind of seems like he might take note.
Right. Yeah. For a brief moment, you're like, oh, maybe he didn't realize what he was doing.
Yeah.
Because the people who they're not talking to as much,
mm-hmm.
well, besides Angela,
mm-hmm.
they're smaller departments. Meredith does customer relations, which is different from Kelly, who does customer service.
Well, no, because I think Meredith deals with
supplier relations.
Yeah, she's a customer. Yeah, to her vendors.
But in this kind of office, the big kahunas are the salespeople.
Yes.
So sales and shipping. Those are the two big ones. So it makes sense for Jim and Daryl to be in there, because Dwight would be in there instead of Jim if, Dwight was willing.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like since season 3, Jim has been higher level than Dwight.
Right.
Because he was number 2 for a long time until Charles came by. And then I guess, but then at some point he actually became a co-manager.
Mm-hmm.
And so maybe after the co-manager thing, he just became a salesperson.
Right. And I don't know if there are any ranks in the salespeople.
Right. Because Stanley's often pointed to as the most senior salesperson.
He's the most senior salesperson, but Dwight does better numbers. But yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really obvious that D'Angelo. Sorry, didn't mean to hit my mic there. D'Angelo is trying to get on Dwight's good side.
That's right.
Dwight is the big, he's the dominant male in the sales team.
Yeah.
So he goes out to the thing. He's like, oh, I've heard all these rumors. He's like, all right, show of hands. Who who here has a vagina? Calls
Yeah.
up one in. Who here loves someone with a vagina? And so at this point, somebody, most of the women, I think, have both hands up. Maybe. I don't know. Anyway. But
Phyllis actually ends up putting both her hands up.
Right.
Because she's answering these questions correctly.
Mm-hmm.
But D'Angelo goes on to explain why he has two hands up and why he's better than other people. So then the people in the inner circle also start to put both of their hands up, even though they clearly don't have.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I do like there's a couple different things in here about Dwight that I do like, because he won't bow down to the new person. I think Dwight has realized that he is invaluable to the company.
Right.
Honestly, he's without incredible cause, he's probably bulletproof at Thunder Mifflin Saber with as much money as he's making them. And I think he kind of realizes it. He's like, I'm good at my job and I want to do it and be left alone, and that's it. Right. And I kind of like that he got to that point where he's like, I don't want to do anything else. Right. And this is something we've talked about previous episodes, and we'll get into more in the next episode, of him progressing as the person to be the manager.
Right.
That eventually, by the time he finally gets to being the manager at the end of the series, he's ready for it. And I think this is one of those times that you kind of see him progressing to be just accepting his spot as a salesperson, nothing more. Because he's not like, it's not Michael screwing around with him, assistant to the regional manager and all that stuff. He's just like, just let me do my job.
Right. Yeah, it's true. Dwight has been changing a lot, I think, since season 4, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Because he already started doing a lot of like anti-Michael stuff.
Right.
Kind of not really just agreeing with everything he did. And, he buys the building. So that kind of gives him a totally different power dynamic.
Right.
So this anti-D'Angelo stance is really, it's like finally his big thing, right?
Right.
Because, he's on the precipice of possibly becoming someone important.
And so D'Angelo does hire an administrative assistant, apparently over some very, very qualified people, because she's tall and blonde and hot.
Yeah. Jordan Garfield.
Which I think we see again. Like, I know she's in the next episode, but doesn't she come back at some point? Or
according to Dunderpedia, she is only in this season. She doesn't come back next season.
Okay. For whatever reason, maybe I saw her in something else. And
yeah, I mean, she kind of looks like a bootleg Blake Lively.
Yeah, she just looks really familiar to me. So maybe I've seen her in like another Michael Schur show or something.
Yeah.
But apparently she worked at Anthropology, which is
Kelly's dream job. And as she's like talking about it, Ryan gives her some shit.
Right.
Mostly because I think D'Angelo's giving him a look. He's like, you got to control your lady.
Right. And I think this is when like Kelly like puts down like the hammer for, you're going to be a dutiful boyfriend now. Like, I think it was one thing for him to do it in front of him and just from D'Angelo, but to do it in front of, everyone, that's a whole other, that's a much larger bridge to cross.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I thought it was sooner, because the joke is that he sometimes gets to be her manager because when D'Angelo's around, but he always has to be a dutiful boyfriend. But like you said, once it's put out in front of the office like this and D'Angelo sides with him, then she has no more bargaining chip. But yeah, I mean, so Jordan's hired. Kelly's in her place. Ryan's still a boss. Jim ends up not getting a text for an inner circle meeting call after that. It's like Andy gets it. Dwight also gets it. I guess he always gets it. And he gives a shout. He's like, never. And
so there is one scene that is I am curious about your thoughts. So D'Angelo sends out Jordan, the new administrative assistant, to tell Dwight that anything. And so he says, D'Angelo, tell your whore to leave me alone.
Right.
And so part of me kind of is like, do you think D'Angelo was trying to whore this girl out?
I don't think so. I think that's Dwight and his old-timey thoughts, you know?
Okay.
It doesn't help that that's the phrase that Jordan used.
Right. But it's possible, I guess.
Yeah, I suppose it's possible because D'Angelo's not a great guy.
No, he's a terrible person.
Yeah. So a lot of stuff happens, right? Like, so D'Angelo is playing basketball.
We see that, like, Andy.
So he goes.
So Andy, he made that big stink about being a feminist.
That's right.
And he goes in, and everyone's like, Andy, and he's like, oh, I'm gonna penetrate from the inside, but he gets in, he's like, oh yeah, man game. And he's like, obviously just being a kiss ass,
right? Which again is part of Andy's MO, right? That's what he did with Josh.
That's what he does. Did with Josh, tried to do with Michael.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're playing like Nerf hoop basketball,
right?
And he
it's loud.
It's like super loud. So like Pam asks him to be quiet, and so Gabe says, "Oh, it's just like Magic Jordan himself."
Right.
And D'Angelo corrects him. Is like, "Oh, I'm nothing like Michael Jordan, but I can do his dunk from the foul line."
Yeah.
Which, if memory serves me right, that's from the 1988 or 89 slam dunk contest against Dominique Wilkins.
Where no one on this show is going to correct you.
we're for the non-sports people. It's where the iconic Jordan logo from the shoes and stuff is from. He is the first person to dunk taking off from behind the foul line of basketball. So it's like jumping 16 feet.
10 feet up. Yeah.
And 10 feet up. So that stretching motion that you see, when you think of like a Jordan logo, that's where that is from, that dunk contest.
Right. So he says he could do it.
Right.
And unfortunately, there's no way for him to show that off. How convenient, just like the juggling. But Jim reveals there's a basketball hoop downstairs and we can do it.
Right.
So yeah, we end up doing that. We go downstairs. He is changed. He is in his basketball gear now.
What I love is he's still got his like vest and button-ups on.
Yeah.
And
he tries to get Jordan to sit under the.
He's like, "I'm holding your jewelry."
Yep. So Kevin gets to do it.
And so he runs. He does sort of like a leap from the foul line, strikes the pose, trots, jumps over Kevin, does another one, grabs the net, and then pulls himself up and dunks it.
Yeah.
Holds on, and the thing just falls, and I assume catches him like on the windpipe or something.
That's what it looks like, but he has a concussion, so maybe like just before he kind of does that, and it like sandwiches his forehead into the cement.
Well, yeah, but just the way he was falling, hitting the back of your head, he's going to get one no matter what.
Yeah, I think it's more that fall than the hoop doing the damage.
Right. And if so, we learn eventually that he's in a coma in the next episode.
Yeah.
But I think don't we learn at some point that he dies?
I do not remember that.
I think I remember hearing something in an episode where like he dies from these injuries.
Let's see. So I'm on his page on Dunderpedia. D'Angelo Vickers, last appearance, Inner Circle. In Lotto, D'Angelo was mentioned by Daryl saying that he's dead, but Andy corrects him saying that he's not dead, just his brain.
Okay,
so his brain dead.
His brain dead. There you go.
Yeah. So yeah, they walk him out. He's all concussed and slurring, way worse than Dwight was.
Right.
Yeah, and now we're left with no manager. So what would you give this episode, sir?
I like this episode. this is like the only D'Angelo episode I've really wanted to watch.
Uh-huh.
So I gave this a 3.7 out of 5 Horse Flyers, which is Pam's young adult novel, which would be the worst book I would ever read cover to cover twice.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, did not like this episode as much, although it's not as bad as I remember. I mean, all of these episodes, and if you listened to us early on, you'll recall I was very adamant that I'd be negative about everything after season 3. So here we are in season 8, right? Yeah, not so bad. But this episode, I still am not a huge fan of. 2.5 out of 5 man caves.
2 point. Okay. Yeah, maybe it's just I'm in a good mood today. I don't know, but
I'll tell you, that's what hit me a lot the last couple of shows that we did. So that's a totally valid reason.
But also, like, I don't know. I love the juggling bit. I'm not gonna lie. I still will laugh out loud every time.
No, that's very valid. It's a great.
And there aren't a lot of parts in this show because just as I've seen it so much where I'll actually like, give more than just a, sort of an inner chuckle kind of thing.
Right.
So I don't know. I love it. It's hilarious to me.
Yeah.
It shouldn't be, but it is.
Yeah.
Or maybe it should be. I don't know.
Yeah, we're not going to cover that episode this show, but the bit where Creed is in charge, that's one of those bits for me. Like he has that meeting and no one's in it. He does his body thing.
Body. Yeah. There. Speaking of, in the next episode, season 7, episode 24, Dwight Schrute, acting manager, directed by Troy Miller, written by Justin Spitzer.
So D'Angelo's in a coma.
He has a coma. There is a very subtle, awesome Dwight moment Creed moment in this episode.
Uh-huh.
But we'll get there. So we find out that he's in a coma. We see, I guess, what it's like a party planning committee, sort of. Well, we open up. Well, okay, that's where we open up. So they're trying to figure out what to get him, and so they're like, "What? Basket with chocolates and stuff." And Dwight's like, "What about a knapsack filled with fuel and
chainsaw
and all this stuff?" Obviously for The Walking Dead,
right?
Which is pretty funny. And so we open up the episode where, it's Jim sort of narrating this montage of, it's like, who would have thought people just come in and do their jobs on their own schedule, and
right,
it's been working great. Why would I want to upset this? So he gets a phone call, and he's like, it's Joe offering him the acting manager position.
Yep.
Which, granted, I get wanting to keep the status quo, but
I mean, take the job. You gotta take
the job, right?
And then don't do the work, right? Because
just keep the status quo because someone's going to fill that position.
Yeah,
it's going to get filled at some point.
Well, that's the thing. Apparently, he doesn't know that.
Well, this is like Jim just being dumb. Like this is one of those convenient ignorance, as I think is the trope, is the name of the trope. But it's just like someone being overly stupid when they shouldn't be.
Right. Yeah.
So he hangs up the phone. He tells Joe, or Pam's like, "How's Joe offering me the acting manager job?" And she's like, "Why didn't you take it?" And then Dwight's phone rings.
Yep.
And Dwight just looks at the phone like, "I know exactly what this is."
Yeah. Yeah. So he's offered the position. He takes it. He calls Jordan over to take all the things from his desk into the new office, and he walks in very triumphant, very like this is a moment for me.
Right.
Then he gives the call to his most trusted ally, Mose. Yeah. He says, guess where I'm calling from. Yeah.
But what I love is we have this shot of Pam with abject terror in her eyes and just a shaky voice going, "What have you done?"
Yeah. I mean, and Pam, a lot of the people in that office will recall when Dwight was in charge, because Dwight was in charge for at least a day during the job interview.
Right.
But this is different, right? Because Like he was given this position from corporate.
Right. Yeah. He is acting. He is in charge, down from corporate.
Yeah.
The whole bit.
So Jim can't deal with it. He stays in his car longer. He's doing his talking heads outside.
Right. And he's counting down I have to punch on this time clock. Everyone has a 21-minute or 21-digit copier code. There's
nobody can take lunch at the same time. He has the 10:30 spot.
This is, again, like we were talking about last time, like the evolution of Dwight as a manager. This is very obviously him still not ready to do it yet.
Right. Yeah. So we find out, though, that, it's worth mentioning, they all have new business cards. They're not the size of business cards, and everybody's title is junior employee.
They're huge. Yeah, they're like, I don't know how big they are, but they're bigger than a dollar bill. That's what they look like.
Yeah, I'll say, because I do a lot of marketing or whatever, like it is a thing to keep looking for the non-business card business card, right?
Right.
I've seen things that are called Z cards that are the shape and size of a business card, but it's actually two business cards with like a accordion piece of paper inside that folds out into a whole thing. There's the business card in the pen that you can pull out. It's like a little scroll. I'm a big fan of like those infinite folding business cards. Like they're in a shape and you fold them inward and it's another message, and you fold them inward and it's another message, and you do that like 3 or 4 times.
I haven't seen those.
But these are basically small postcards,
right?
Which is just terrible. So we find out that Joe's coming in.
Right.
It's only on a need to know basis. Aaron needs to know. It's a meet and greet. So he has a list of things that he'd like the office to adhere to. One is no fomenting insurrection.
Right, which of course Jim runs with to start.
He's like, what if we already have fomented insurrection? Can we be grandfathered in?
Right. I can't remember the name of the group or the campaign he starts. The Fist? Was it
the Fist? Yeah, it's Join the Fist. Yeah, so he's got a flyer up in that little kitchenette area. Dwight takes it down. Jim comes back and puts 2 up. It's like this Hydra mentality, right? Kelly shows up late. So, Dwight wants to know why, because she said it was for a medical reason. That's none of his business. So he says, I'll point.
Right. And he just hangs around her
vagina. Yeah. And then another thing we see, kind of like a B storyline here, is that Gabe is still into Aaron.
Big time.
Yeah. So so this is not the first time Gabe has cornered Andy.
Right. He's like, pulls in the thing. He's like, promise me you won't date her. So he starts crying. He's like, do you like being alone with me? I don't like being alone with me either.
Yeah.
Like, Gabe seems like a really hard person to be with.
Gabe seems like a really hard person to be. I think he just has problems. Yeah, so Andy swears. I mean, honestly, it's one of those, it's like torture, right? You'll say anything to get out of it. So he says this thing.
And now, a great thing that we see is the new manager office.
Yeah.
We have a giant desk that is a replica of one of the Hussein's desks.
Yeah.
But he only did it because he saw it and liked it. So, whatever. Yeah. He has a piranha. That's a rescue. I love the rescue piranha.
Yeah.
A Beaumont Adams pistol. In like a full samurai warrior armor set.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an ugly office.
Oh, it's hideous, but it's very Dwight.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's one of those things where he wouldn't do this for his building owner thing because not everyone would see it all the time.
Right.
But in this office, if he has the shades up, people pretty much have to look at it.
Yeah. So Gabe is still messing around trying to get Aaron back. We find out Aaron just didn't like being touched by Gabe, which I think she kind of hints at also during Michael's last undies.
Right. But yeah, so apparently he's very bony.
Yeah.
But it's also one of those things where I think she's manifesting her dislike of him as a person into physicalness. Like she just says, like, he may or may not be a bad person to touch, physically, but since she dislikes him so much, it makes her feel weird to touch or be touched by him.
Yeah, that's right. So Jim goes into Dwight's office. So this insurrection thing is looming in Dwight's head.
Right.
And he really wants to make sure that Jim stays on the up and up. And Jim says that Dwight has no power to fire him if he does have an uprising. So they get into these pre-preparedness situations.
Right. So then you're pre-fired. Well, we had this talk. Yeah, it was like, if I would known this, if I would know that Dwight was going to be the full-time manager, I would pre-quit. Yeah. Because I find it better to be pre-prepared.
That's right. Dwight gets a holster from his uncle, right?
Right.
As like a gift, a congratulatory gift on his promotion.
Great Uncle Honk.
Yeah, great name. Classic. Must be a family name. So it's just a holster now. He's rocking this pistol in it.
Right. Well, first question is, why is it loaded? I mean, this is one of those things where it doesn't really make sense that Dwight would actually have a loaded gun.
Right.
Because Dwight is very much about safety, all this stuff. So it's either arrogance that he thinks he can control it, or it's just the writers saying, screw it, we need the joke. Because the more I think about it, the more it really does not fit with Dwight's character to have a loaded gun there.
See, I don't know that. Because he's looking at Michael during Survivor Man, and the safety wasn't on.
That is true.
So I think he has the intentions of being a safe weapon owner, but he is not, in fact. And obviously because he's never had a mistake around himself, Right. So this thing that we're about to talk about, I think, is a surprise to him.
So Andy and everyone starts kind of wigging out about guns. Andy can't be around a gun apparently. And so he ends up he's like, whatever, I'll put it away. He does like the cowboy twirl. And on the twirl, I guess he pulls down on the trigger and the gun goes off.
Right.
Which, I mean, it's a whole other discussion about trigger weights and stuff, but that had to be a really light trigger for it to actually go off there. But maybe I'm wrong there. But from what I understand about guns, which I'm not a big gun person, but
Joe calls it a little girl's gun, and that could be Joe being overly manly, right? Because she's eating, Desert Eagles and stuff. But it's a 6-shooter and it has a hammer.
Right.
If video games have taught me anything, it's that if you preload the hammer, it's easier to pull the trigger.
Right.
Otherwise, it's heavy to shoot and your aim is off.
Right. So I don't know. I didn't see if the hammer was preloaded. That would make sense, But there was also 6-shooters that were single action, which means you couldn't preload them. So I don't know.
Yeah. Right in.
Yes, please write in and explain to us about guns, because I know this much about guns, and I'm sure that's an infinite more than Jay-Rey knows about guns.
Correct, because I am a East Coast liberal, so I only know what video games tell me.
So it goes off. Everyone freaks out. We find out that there is hardwood flooring underneath the carpet, which comes back to play later on.
Yep. But Andy is injured.
Injured, right?
Yeah.
Which I've been in a house. Oh, I was almost shot once. Those things are loud. So it's not that he would be it would have burst like a couple of people's eardrums.
Yeah. I mean, I guess they can do it because he's
It'd
sitting
be great.
directly
Also
next to
depends
them.
on like the load and stuff. But,
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, anyway.
Um,
That's another story for Tales from Jacob's Past.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. Yep. So Aaron comes over to like help him out. Gabe sees this. He's annoyed. She says she can take him to the hospital. Gabe says, no, we need you here. Like, we need a receptionist now more than ever, he says. So Daryl ends up taking him, and Andy is
acting all hurt. Yeah.
He's like, so a great line here is Dwight is asked why he needs to wear that holster anyways or whatever. And Dwight says, why do you always have to wear those booby shirts?
Right.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember the context. I knew I wrote down the quote.
Yeah. So,
which, I don't think Pam really wears anything overly revealing, right? Like,
no, I mean,
it's a little bit of a V, but it's not like much of one.
Our wives will hear this, but Pam is like a full-bodied woman, right?
Yeah.
Like she's got bits, she's got pieces, they're in places. So I mean, unless she was wearing like a smock, right? Like you could, you see her shape, I guess is my point here.
Yeah, you see her shape, but it's not like she's not wearing a push-up bra and like cleavage is showing. It's not that kind of thing.
But I think Dwight says this thing, and Angela had said it previously,
right?
And I think that's what it is that like because she has this lady body, it's offensive that people can tell.
In my head, like booby shirts are like those tank tops where you could drop a quarter down in there. So.
Yeah, man, let me tell you, and I'll keep it short, but I was in a meeting a couple of weeks ago with someone, and her shirt, it was just so inappropriate. Like, I could see her belly button. Like, dead serious, and she kept having to fix it and stuff, and, like, her brassiere was clearly exposed, and I was like, what's happening here? And it was really offensive. It was very distracting. I don't think I got a lot out of it. There's just a time and place for a shirt like that, and it was not at 10 a.m. in my office building.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm not going to. I was going to add something, an annoyance of mine, but
that's fair. We'll cover it next time. So now Dwight goes into like fix mode, right? How can I fix
protection
this?
Mode?
Yeah. So he calls a conference, and in a very Michael style, he comes in with a cowboy hat and says,
"Gun safety, Dwight."
Yeah, he's the most rootinest, tootinest, and he gives up, and it's great.
Oh, I love it. It's like, all right, I can't do this, and he just like tries to get everyone on his side. On his side.
Yeah.
And Toby is super excited. He gets to use like a new part of his binder.
Yeah, new
he's never used before.
Stuff. Yeah. So, yeah, he starts like, who saw Dwight shoot the gun? Everybody raises their hand. Yeah, I mean, like, it's just super clear that Dwight is going down for this, right?
Right.
But eventually we get to a place where Joe's coming.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole office, like, each now are being able to demand a single thing of Dwight so that they'll keep silent.
Right. And Kevin, it's like, Dwight's like, I put all the food back in the things. Like, I said without the fruit.
Yeah.
Which is fruit really a vending machine thing?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when there was fruit in there during the weight loss episodes.
Right. But
I don't think there was actual fresh produce in there anymore after that. It traditionally was chips and stuff.
Right. Because, like, I mean, yeah, I've seen, like, in like the spinny ones that are refrigerated.
Yeah.
Maybe some fruit in there because we have one of those at work, and I think you can get like a banana out of them.
Right. Yeah.
But like an actual vending machine.
Yeah.
Actually, I think there is one of those spinny ones in there.
They never shoot a scene with it, but I think
it's the only one they ever shoot a scene with.
The
far one. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah. Okay. Problem solved.
That's what I was talking about. We did it. And that's going to do it for Great Scott. No. Okay. So Jim has the most outlandish demands, right?
He's like, I would, shagadelic baby in 3 sentences.
Like 3 times. And then every time he coughs, Dwight has to do jazz hands. Pam, I think it's Pam, wants him to get rid of the fish. which ends up in the men's room toilet.
Why get rid of the fish? Like,
it's tough. I mean, well, because he's keeping gross stuff in the freezer to feed the fish also.
Okay. I mean, for that, I can see it. But other than that, I'm like, I felt bad for the fish. He flushed the fish. Like, oh, poor fish.
The problem is he didn't flush the fish. The fish was just in the toilet. Okay. So.
With a great Kevin. Like, so Kevin goes to the bathroom. It's just like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah. I love when the characters curse, like, out of nowhere, because the beep is just, it's great. Like, I think my favorite curse in the show is when Michael is trying to ride his bike in during Benihana Christmas, and like the handle just lightly catches on the door frame, and he loses speed, and he just goes, and he's trying to sing, and he goes, fuck, and then he comes back in. So Joe comes in, she's stoked, she's got new puppies, but she's trying to greet the whole office, and Dwight is like really tense, trying to make sure that everybody is like not going to blow up his spot.
Right. And he's like, screw it. And this is another probably good Dwight moment where he just owns it.
Yeah.
More than probably anyone else would. Right. He just owns it.
But not before he has to do one jazz hands.
Right.
But it doesn't go well. Joe has like a zero tolerance for this. I mean, she does like guns, but she is 100% aware that guns do not belong in the workplace.
Right.
She also calls Dwight's gun a girl gun.
Mm-hmm.
So essentially he's stripped of his title,
of
which, again, I think he's only been it for
a week.
Yeah, a week.
Which might be his longest managership to date.
Yeah. So a new committee is drafted to find someone. And in the meantime, the most senior individual in the office gets to be manager.
Right. Which is Creed.
That's Creed. Yeah.
Okay. So there is this great Creed scene. It's real quick. And I know a lot of people have missed it through the years. So after Dwight fires the gun, it looks like he means to do it, hands it off to Creed, who just takes it away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like Creed and Dwight have this, like, okay, you're the fixer. And Dwight knows this. Mm-hmm. And so, like, okay, there'll come a time where I will need your help and I will owe you for it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I did see a post this week about how, according to Creed Bratton's AMA, the reason he wanted 3 chairs was so he could build a ladder to his cubicle in the roof or in the ceiling.
There you go.
That's from the official, like, Creed Bratton thing. So there you go.
What do you think, man?
I gave this a 3 out of 5 transition episodes.
Yeah. I'm gonna give it 2.7 out of 5 Husseins. It is a transition episode. I mean, the season's wrapping up.
Right. It's to pretty much set up the search committee.
Yeah.
So, thanks for coming out. You can reach us at brokenjarsbroadcasting@gmail.com if you would like to comment on our various probably things we've said that are very wrong. Again, patreon.com/brokenjars if you want to give us some of your hard-earned money and help keep the podcast going.
Leave a comment or review on iTunes, Stitcher, wherever you listen to it. Google Play Music.
Yep. All righty. And I guess we'll see you next time, y'all.
Got you on the flippity flip.
In season 8.
Ooh.
Oh, no, not quite. We're not quite to season 8 yet.
But the next show
almost it'll be fishing out season 7.
Yeah, that's right.
Bye, guys.
Bye.